The fishing trawler's horn ripped through the early morning fog, a sound that usually comforted me, a promise of the day's catch. But today, it felt like a warning. Ever since Mama married Silas, our quiet life in the salt-weathered cottage on the Cornish coast had shifted. It wasn't Silas. He was a kind, weathered fisherman, his hands rough from years of hauling nets. It was Corvus, his son. Corvus. Even his name felt like a dark omen, a raven's shadow flitting across my life. He was 5 years my senior, 23 to my 18, yet different. A childhood illness had left its mark, slowing his mind, leaving him with the innocent curiosity of a boy trapped in a man's body. He stood barely 5 feet tall, his thin frame almost swallowed by the oversized fisherman's sweaters he always wore. His eyes, though, were the most unsettling. Wide, a startling sea glass green. They held a constant, searching look, as if he was trying to decipher a world that perpetually eluded him. Welcome to the heartstrings and scars, where we unravel the untold stories of love, betrayal, and the life-changing lessons they leave behind. If you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button and join our growing community. We promise you stories that will make you reflect, question, and maybe even see yourself in the characters we share. Our cottage, perched on the cliffs overlooking the churning Atlantic, was small. 2 bedrooms, a shared living space, and the ever-present scent of salt and fish. Proximity became a crucible, forging a connection I never anticipated. Corvus followed me like a shadow, his presence a constant hum in the background of my days. He'd watch me read, his head tilted, asking questions about words he couldn't grasp. He'd sit beside me as I mended nets, his fingers clumsily mimicking my movements. It was endearing, in a way, a brotherly affection, I told myself. Harmless. His evenings were a ritual. After Silas and Mama had gone to bed, Corvus would settle on the worn sofa, his favorite faded blue blanket clutched in his hands. He loved old black and white films, the flickering images holding his attention like a moth to a flame. He'd laugh at the slapstick, his laughter a high, childlike sound that echoed in the quiet cottage. Ilara, he'd call, his voice soft, "Come sit." The first time, I hesitated only a moment. It felt like humoring a younger sibling. He patted the cushion beside him, his green eyes wide and expectant. I sat, the worn fabric of the sofa dipping under my weight. We watched the film, the silence punctuated by his occasional giggles. Eventually, his head lolled onto my shoulder, his breathing evening out. I didn't move. I felt protective, but the nights became a current, pulling me under. Sometimes, I'd catch his gaze lingering on me, a flicker of something I couldn't decipher in his eyes. Other times, he'd shift closer, his body pressing against mine, seeking a warmth that felt different, heavier. He's innocent, I'd whisper to myself, the words a mantra against a growing unease. He doesn't understand. Then came the evening. I'd come down to the living room, wearing a loose cotton nightdress, expecting to find him curled up on the sofa, ready for our nightly ritual. But he was standing, his back to me, fumbling with his trousers. My gaze, drawn against my will, dropped, and I saw it, the impossible, a size that defied his small frame, a stark contrast to his childlike demeanor. I looked away, my face burning, a dizzying mix of shock and something else swirling within me. 14 inches? The precise measurement, absurdly specific, seared itself into my memory, a grotesque detail my mind wouldn't let go. I felt a surge of shame, not just for seeing, but for noticing. for the way the image lingered, unwanted yet undeniably present. That night changed everything. A subtle, seismic shift. I became hyper-aware of him. The way his hand brushed mine when he reached for the shared bowl of mussels at dinner. The way his goodnight hugs lingered, his small body pressing against mine for a heartbeat too long. And most disturbing of all, the way my own body responded. A flush creeping up my neck, a quickening of my pulse, a traitorous awareness I desperately tried to suppress. One stormy night, the wind howling like a banshee off the Atlantic, I woke to a faint tapping at my door. "Ilara!" His voice was a whisper, barely audible above the storm. "The thunder!" Lightning illuminated the hallway, casting his silhouette against the doorframe. He looked small, vulnerable, wrapped in his ever-present blue blanket. I should have sent him back to his room. I should have reminded him that he was a grown man capable of weathering a storm. But I didn't. "Come in," I whispered, pulling back the covers. He slipped into the bed beside me, curling up like a child seeking refuge. His head barely reached my shoulder. I could feel his breath, slow and steady, against my skin. He felt safe, and that was the most terrifying part. I lay rigid, staring at the ceiling, the storm outside mirroring the turmoil within me. Minutes stretched into an eternity. Then he stirred. His hand, small and surprisingly strong, found my waist, his fingers curling against my skin. "Ilara," he murmured, his voice thick with sleep. "Do you feel safe now?" The question, so innocent on his lips, felt like an accusation. Safe? Was I safe? Was he? I wasn't sure. Yes, I lied, the word a fragile whisper lost in the roar of the wind. He sighed, a sound of contentment, and nestled closer. I didn't move. I couldn't. My body, betraying my mind, felt warm, comfortable, and a terrifying, insidious thought crept into my consciousness. I didn't want him to move. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button to support us and join our growing community. We promise you stories that will make you reflect, question, and maybe even see yourself in the characters we share. The rain continued to lash against the windows, the wind screaming its secrets to the night. Corvus slept, his breathing deep and even, but I lay awake, trapped in a web of my own making, wondering how far we could drift before we were lost at sea, with no hope of finding our way back to shore. Some lines once crossed, there is no going back. He did it again and again, and I let him. The storms would come, and he would seek shelter in my bed, a forbidden comfort. One night, as we lay tangled in the darkness, he asked, "Why does my body feel different when I'm near you, Ilara?" "It's good, but strange." My throat tightened. How could I explain the complexities of desire, of awakening, to someone who lived in a perpetual state of innocence? "You're growing up, Corvus," I managed, the words hollow even to my own ears. "Bodies change." He nodded, his head pressing against my neck. But his understanding wasn't intellectual. It was visceral, instinctive, and we were already too far gone. "Can I touch you?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. It should have been the moment I said no, the moment I drew the line. But I didn't. Instead, I guided his hand beneath my nightdress, placing it over my heart, feeling its frantic beat against his palm. He smiled, a small, secret smile, as if he'd discovered a hidden treasure. We lay there, silent, the only sound the rhythm of our breaths and the pounding of my heart. Every touch, every shared breath was a step further into forbidden territory. And still, I didn't stop him. Time became a blur. Minutes, hours, lost in the darkness, in the secret world we'd created. He kissed my shoulder, his lips soft and hesitant. "I like being here," he whispered. "With you. Do you like it?" The word safe from that first night echoed in my mind, but now it held a different meaning. Was safety even possible anymore? And yet, wrapped in his arms, feeling his warmth against my skin, I wanted to believe it. "Yes," I whispered. "I do." And for the first time, it wasn't entirely a lie. I wasn't thinking about right or wrong, about tomorrow, about the consequences. I was thinking only of this moment, of the undeniable connection that had blossomed between us, a dangerous, fragile flower blooming in the darkness. The days that followed were a waking dream, haunted by the memory of those nights. Corvus was unchanged, his simple demeanor, his childlike affection, all remained. But I was different. I saw the subtle shifts, the lingering touches, the questions that held a deeper meaning. I tried to create distance. I stopped our nightly film rituals, made excuses to stay in my room. But Corvus, oblivious to the turmoil he'd unleashed, sought me out. One afternoon, he found me in my room, his blue blanket trailing behind him. "Why don't you sit with me anymore, Ilara?" he asked, his brow furrowed. Did I do something bad? Guilt, sharp and acrid, washed over me. "No, Corvus," I said softly. "You didn't do anything wrong." But that wasn't true. We both had. He climbed onto the bed, resting his head on my lap, as if our nights of forbidden closeness had never happened. "I liked it when we were close," he murmured. "It felt warm. You make me feel good." I ran my fingers through his hair, a gesture that once held only innocent affection, now tangled with a desire I couldn't name. "This is dangerous, Corvus," I whispered, the words more for myself than for him. He looked up at me, his green eyes questioning. Why? And how could I explain? How could I articulate the weight of guilt and longing, the conflict between knowing better and wanting more? Before I could answer, he sat up, facing me. His small frame seemed at odds with the intensity of his gaze. He reached for my hand, his touch deliberate, no longer accidental. "Can I stay with you again tonight, Ilara?" It should have been an easy no, but instead, I found myself nodding. Yes. That night, the storm was inside me. He came to my bed, no longer hesitant, his hands finding mine in the darkness, bolder now, confident. And I didn't resist. I let it happen because I wanted it to happen. And that truth, as terrifying as it was, felt like a kind of honesty. We moved together, navigating a language neither of us fully understood, his hands exploring, mine guiding, his questions replaced by a primal need. And all I could think was that I should have stopped it before it started. But desire makes liars of us all. When it was over, the silence felt heavier than the night itself. Corvus drifted to sleep, his breathing calm and even. But I lay awake, counting the ways this could never be undone. I thought of the Ilara from before Corvus, the girl who believed some lines could never be crossed. She felt like a stranger now. The next morning, I made coffee I wouldn't drink, staring out the window at the churning sea. The house felt too quiet. Corvus appeared behind me, his blue blanket dragging on the floor. He wrapped his arms around my waist, his voice muffled against my back. "Can we do that again tonight, Ilara?" And there it was, the question I knew would come. Innocent on his lips, catastrophic in its implications. I covered his hands with mine, taking a breath I didn't know how to release. "Maybe not tonight," I said, but the truth sat heavy in my throat. It wasn't a no. It never had been. I turned to face him, and for a fleeting moment, I wondered if this was how it would always be. a secret hidden in the shadows, burning just beneath the surface. We stood there, just the two of us, and I knew we'd already passed the point of no return. Because after you cross a line, all that's left is how far you're willing to go. And I wasn't sure I wanted to stop. Not yet. The salt wind whispered through the cracks in the old cottage, carrying with it the scent of the sea and the weight of our unspoken truth. I knew this path that we were now forever intertwined upon could only lead to our destruction, but that was a problem for another day. Thank you for your time, and please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support us and join our growing community. We promise you stories that will make you reflect, question, and maybe even see yourself in the characters we share. Thank you